All right, we're back. We're processing blue, another new episode, and I just got to ask Alex Zetlow, where in the world are you, my man?
I am in an undisclosed location adjacent to Area 51, if there is one in Bank of America Stadium. Nah, I genuinely don't know where I am. I'm right across the hallway from where we just interviewed Bryce Young,
It
and
looks
that's
like
about
where the officials might change, like the referee changing room or something,
yeah, perhaps.
or they
But I've
transported the high
never
school.
been back.
Yeah, they transported the high school locker room over
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, that's probably exactly what it is. So, yeah, I'll be your residing official this evening. Uh, Heads or tails, Langston? Just
there.
kidding. All right, we can get it going.
All right. If I'm going to be heads, I'm going to win anyway because I have to ask the questions. Former
Okay.
South Carolina receiver Shy Smith, 6th round draft pick, caught 7 passes for 88 yards. I was kind of rooting for him a little bit to make the team. He did not make the team. Did that surprise you?
Surprise is a difficult word. I think a lot of people within the Panthers organization, uh, I wouldn't want to say rooting for him because, of course, this is a business, but
Yeah.
I just remember when I was just starting at the Observer last year and I was helping out Ellis Williams with training camp stuff. Everybody in the organization, of course, this was a different head coach, this was a different coaching staff, but everyone in the organization was like, man, Shi Smith has really impressed us this year.
Right.
Shi Smith can be a threat in pretty much anywhere. He can be a threat in the slot. He can play out wide. He can return punts as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so a year later, seeing his name not on the 53-man roster is, again, it's a strange word. Of course, this is a business. Alex Zetlow thinks it is a little disappointing just purely because the organization once had so many hopes for him. But this is a really crowded wide receiver room, as we've talked about a whole bunch of times this preseason. Frank Reich and his staff went out and got a lot of guys. And many of those guys are injured right now, which kind of even opened the opportunity more
Right.
for a deeper wide receiver room, and still Shi didn't make the cut. So that's the status on him. I think, but Langston, to your point, I think a lot of guys and a lot of Panthers fans feel that way. They feel like, dang, Shi's
Yeah.
not.
No, he was just kind of spunky. He made plays last year. You know,
Right.
he was fun to watch. But then Carolina goes out and gets another wide receiver, a Super Bowl champion from Kansas City. He's got a lot of speed. Tell us about him and how Adam Thielen helped recruit him to Carolina.
Langston, thank you for reading my story yesterday.
Just
Well, so firstly, to introduce this guy, his name is Ihmir Smith-Marsette.
See, I didn't want to say the name. I didn't want to make Miss Marcette upset, so I just was throwing it to you.
Got you. Okay, yeah, cool. In his own words, he is a, quote, bad MFer. And what he means by that is he can do anything. He's explosive. And the story that you referenced yesterday, or from yesterday, Frank Reich is someone who is admittedly a little bit over. He over prepares. He over checks in on any connections that any players that he's previously had or currently has played with. He loves to really vet out guys that he's going to trade for or claim on waivers or whatever. And he remembered faintly in the back of his mind that Adam Thielen and Ihmir Smith-Marsette overlapped in Minnesota. And so he gave Adam a call, and Adam is obviously one of the more veteran guys in the wide receiver corps, and Adam only sung Ihmir's praises. And I think that not only that was important, but I think at the end of the day, this was a product of Ihmir really playing well this preseason. I mean, if you look at his numbers, he caught 9 balls for 195 yards and 2 touchdowns in 3 preseason games.
Yeah.
And he can also fill in the depth that the Panthers are sort of kind of lacking in the kicking and punt return game. So I think a lot of it made sense already. Frank just wanted to do what he does. And
do you think he could get on
someone? Yeah.
Do you think he could get on the field on offense and kind of take the top off of Bryce Young and run some nines?
I think that's the hope, particularly with a couple of the Panthers' deep threats injured at the moment.
Yeah, that's my point.
Yeah, DJ Chark, he told reporters yesterday that he's suffering from a little hamstring tweak right now, but he told reporters yesterday that he will absolutely be ready for week 1. We've heard the same thing of Miles Sanders. Obviously he's running back, but like with these lingering injuries, it is, good for the Panthers to have
What's
this depth.
Terrence Marshall's status with the back?
He we didn't ask him about it specifically yesterday, but he was in helmet and pads yesterday, and so he did practice for the first time in a pretty long time.
So Bryce Young will have receivers week 1 against Atlanta. There'll be somebody.
Yes, no, Langston, I will not have to line up next to him. That's what you're asking.
You're a basketball dude. You can shoot it. I don't want you lined up. Not over the middle. Now, you're too little to go over the middle. Not over the middle.
I appreciate that. I don't appreciate the last point, but I appreciate the basketball.
We have not seen very much of this Panthers defense in preseason. Don't know what to make of the 3-4. Teams were running the ball on us pretty well. They were driving the ball on the Panthers pretty well. What do you make of the defense? And having seen it in practice, it must look a lot different than what we're seeing on Friday nights during the games.
Langston, I'm so happy you asked this question because this question was posed by David Newton of ESPN to Frank Reich. It was like, and David basically goes, so we don't really know what to make of your defense. And Frank goes, good. That's the point. Okay. And it's like, and his point was Justin Houston hasn't played in this preseason. Brian Burns hasn't played in this preseason. Yeah. A couple other guys have played limited snaps. Derek Brown has played 13 snaps week 1. Shaq Thompson hasn't played a ton in the preseason. So not knowing it, Frank is kind of making it so not knowing what this defense is and what this defense could be is an asset at the moment. And I think Panthers fans can take solace in the fact that when the stars are on the field, aka what happened last year, the defense is good. The defense is competent. And
so what you're seeing in practice looks good, or what I know you haven't seen a lot of it. What you've seen looks good in practice.
I think the defensive backfield is, I don't want to say surprisingly good, but they are really solid. J.C. Horn is healthy.
Wait. Time out. I want you to repeat that for America. You said the Panthers defensive backs look good. That's what you said. I didn't hear something.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you're asking me about practice, and of course, there are other variables there too, because they're going against their ones and they're going against their own ones and their own twos. Right. And yes, I know, I hear you, Panthers Nation, and I especially hear you, Langston. How could the Panthers defensive backfield look good after the Lions preseason game where Teddy Bridgewater played probably his best half of football in Bank of America Stadium, which is...
I'm just thinking back to last year, Tom Brady just like every single time, just deep.
Yeah, okay, well, yeah, the Panthers...
And they dropped one and still killed us, but...
Yeah, no, these are fair points. But this is just what I've seen. And then I think the backfield gets better when you have a guy like Brian Burns, who is just like putting so much heat on Bryce Young all the time. So from this defense, we still don't really know what we're seeing, but this is just Alex Zetlow's eyes telling him that the defensive backfield will be better than what they have shown in the preseason.
Is Brian Burns, has he become the alpha male of the Panthers, you think?
I mean, we are in the locker room, and all that, but of course we don't know the player dynamics like these players do. That said, from what we could tell, or from what Alex can tell again, yes, he has kind of become that guy. He is outspoken. He is fun. He seems to have a charisma in addition to his raw ability, which is always nice from an outside linebacker / pass rusher. I think he also is gleaning a lot from Justin Houston, who hasn't played yet, but the 34-year-old outside linebacker is already kind of making an impact on Brian Burns. Brian called him an old head the other day, which is completely fair. And I think a lot of people see Brian in that veteran role as well, even though he is, relatively young too.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of Panther fans that are hoping to, the older Panther fans, remember Kevin Green, Lamar Lathan, the salt and pepper, fire and ice combination they had, and this can be a combination similar to that.
Yeah.
Get after that quarterback.
Yeah, Brian also was asked, hey, do you have a tag team nickname yet for Brian and Justin? Like, have you figured that out yet? And Brian's like, dude, we haven't even played a game yet. Like, let's play a game first.
Right.
So yeah, that'll be interesting to
All
watch.
good duos need a nickname. Though. All good defenses need a nickname.
Yeah.
All right, let's flip it. Let's talk a little bit about the offense.
All right.
Bryce Young finally had a good preseason game. He finally looked like the player. Oh, that's why you traded up to get a
Mm.
first round pick. I saw some memes about he and Cam Newton both scoring their first touchdown at the same point of the preseason. But the pass he made, the throwing it before the guy came out of his break against pressure, just a perfect pass. It's kind of like there's not a lot of guys who can make that throw. And did you see enough when the Panthers opened up the reins a little bit on the offense? And did you see enough from Bryce to make you think? And I kind of asked Mike this question last week: are the Panthers going to be better in the regular season than they've been in the preseason?
I think the answer is an unquestionable yes.
Mm,
And I literally just got done talking with Bryce, and Bryce basically said, "Yeah, we're still opening the playbook. We still haven't unleashed everything that we have."
mm,
I think that particularly that first and second drive that Bryce went on against the Lions, the coaching staff was like, okay, we need to give this offense some confidence, and we need to give this fan base, we need to imbue this fan base with some confidence that our number one overall pick can move the ball and can make completions and can also air it out and throw the ball beyond 15 yards. I mean, that pass that you referenced, Langston, Bryce is under pressure. He can't really step up in the pocket, and he just throws a perfect dot, perfectly timed too,
yeah,
like right at the pylon. And all Adam Thielen had to do was turn around, and the ball was in
yeah, yeah,
his chest. Not to say it was still like not an easy catch because he didn't see the ball really until he made contact with him. But those are the kinds of throws that in the NFL you have to make that you don't necessarily have to do in college. You don't have to throw like someone wise once said that in college you throw to the open man, in the pros you throw to an open spot,
yeah.
and Bryce has already shown that, which is definitely a positive sign. The one not so positive sign, and this also is a draw to your Cam Newton, which you mentioned earlier. Neither could really slide. I mean, Langston, did
Yeah,
you see him
his
on
slide
his
looked painful.
yeah. I mean, Cam would go and just run linebackers over, run defensive linemen over,
Yeah,
and Bryce is just kind of like he just like kind of slowed down his feet and then just like landed on his butt. And so we talked to Matt Corral after the game, and Matt was like, "Yeah, we're gonna have to get some soap and water out to teach him
yeah,
how to slide
he's got to learn
properly."
how to
Because
slide. But I
yeah,
thought that he showed a lot of poise in a couple of drives in that first quarter and using his feet well to not only create space but also go ahead and get out of pocket and run a little bit. So it was nice to see that. I'm glad they did open the reins and show the fans a little bit more. But the next question I have for you, speaking of Bryce Young, I would argue right now that Austin Corbett's their best offensive lineman. He's on the pup list. Tell people what pup means.
physically unable to perform.
And that means he's going to miss how many football games to start the season?
4.
So what are the Panthers going to do when his right guard is not out, and the teams are going to target whoever plays in that right guard spot to come right up Bryce's face? And little guys don't want pressure in the face.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Langston, isn't it so funny how even we haven't even made it to the season yet, and these storylines are still like coming up and they're still getting rehashed. I mean, this has been a storyline all preseason since the very first preseason game. Who's going to start at right guard? Who's going to fill Austin Corbett's spot? I think a lot of people would say that Austin Corbett was the Panthers' best offensive player last year, let
Right.
alone offensive
Right.
lineman.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a big deal. Chandler Zavala he started in the final preseason game against the Lions in that right guard spot because Cade Mays was out, and now Cade Mays is back. We asked Frank yesterday about what the Panthers' plan is at that spot, and they're still evaluating. So the good news is that Chandler Zavala is impressed as a rookie.
Mm-hmm.
The good news is that Cade Mays is healthy, and as we've talked about, he's versatile. The bad news is, of course, is Corbett is doing as we all expected and is going to miss the first 4
Do
games.
you worry that a guy coming off knee surgery might not play for half the season, more than half of the season? Even once we get past the 4 weeks, he still might not be able to go.
Uh, I mean, as a human being, I don't understand how these guys can rip their knee open and then like be able to play within a year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like that's just not to go on a subject, not to go on a tangent about the amazing sports medical technology, but like, holy crap, that's crazy. I mean, I can only report what I've heard, and I can only report on what the team is expecting to do, and they are hopeful that he'll play by week 5. And whatever that means, apparently Austin is doing everything he possibly can to get on the field,
Mm-hmm.
which is reassuring. But again, some things are just out of his hands.
Given everything you know about the offensive line, the wide receiver issues,
Yeah.
we didn't talk about tight ends, but running back had started running back as a play. Given everything you've known about this offense, do you expect them to come out and score 20 points against Atlanta, 28 points against Atlanta? Do you think it's going to be more the defense needs to hold Atlanta down under 20 to get a win?
I think 20 points is a fantastic over under for the Panthers in week 1. I mean, that requires two touchdowns and 2 field goals.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, have we seen enough to where this first team offense against a full first team defense can drive against another team,
Mm-hmm.
against another first team defense? I think the answer is no. We haven't seen that yet.
Right.
Of course, a lot can and will change by week 1. The playbook gets opened up. I mean, and also, again, there's so many injuries that people are just
That's
these
what I'm
soft
talking
tissue,
about. That's what
these soft tissue injuries are things that, as veterans have told reporters time and time again, like it's better to be safe than sorry in the preseason
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because, but once the regular season comes, they're going to be playing through them.
Right.
So it's really difficult to say. If you are holding a gun to my head right now, I would say the Panthers would probably end up with fewer than 20 points, and the defense is going to have to come through. And 20 points in the NFL is not that much in today's day.
Right.
Yeah, it's not that much in today's day and age. I mean, like the average points has got to be in the 28 to 30 range at this point.
Yeah.
So
some teams score that much in a quarter.
yeah, so the Panthers are going to ask a lot.
All right, let me take you through the first quadrant of the season. They got at Atlanta, they got Saints, they're at Seattle, they have Minnesota at home. So that's 2 conference games. The NFC said to be a weak conference. Is 2-2 a must, or is 3-1 a possibility?
I think that both are. I think you're right in both instances. I think 2-2 is a must because if you're assuming that playoff aspirations are the end goal.
Oh yeah, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. You got to win. You got to win 2 of those, particularly when like the weakest part of your schedule is also going to be your divisional games.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to go 2-2. I think 3-1 is a possibility. Just considering Seattle kind of overachieved at the beginning of part of last year and kind of regressed to the mean by the end of last season. I haven't been following their preseason super closely.
It's hard to win out there, though.
But it is hard to win out there. That's a good point. And I think expecting the Panthers can pull out a win against Minnesota at this point is like really well-wishy, really positive on this team. So I'm not sure about that. But 2-2, big win against Atlanta, big win against New Orleans, or as Nolans, as you wrote in your email.
That's right.
Are definitely both possible.
Last question.
Yeah.
At the end of the season, will Bryce Young be a top 20 NFL quarterback or a backside NFL quarterback?
I'll say top 20. I mean, I might even say top 15 just based on how people around the league have been talking about him. I mean, you guys heard it. You heard what Aaron Rodgers said about him.
I heard what Hayden Hurst said about him.
Yeah, like he's being compared to Joe Burrow. He's being compared to Aaron Rodgers. I mean, I also don't know. I know that some people think that this league is deepest at quarterback that it's ever been, but a lot of that has to do because the NFL has changed so much to where the quarterback is valued more than it's ever been, and is just has the ball and has so much decision-making power more than it's ever been. I think Bryce has the talent to be a top 15 quarterback in year 1, and he'll also get better throughout the season too. I try not to extrapolate too much of what we've seen in the preseason for all the reasons that we mentioned in this podcast so far.
Mhm.
But like, he will grow. He has so many tools around him. Not necessarily talking about like he doesn't have Megatron in his like as a wideout, and he doesn't have like Christian McCaffrey in the backfield,
Mhm.
but he does have Andy Dalton serving as his direct understudy. He does have Frank Reich, who is known for developing quarterbacks and was a quarterback here himself. He does have these pieces to get better,
Mhm.
and I think that we will see that. And I think that'll turn out to be. I think if he's not a top 20 quarterback by the end of the season, that would be a real surprise.
Well, there you have it, America. Glass half full, Alex. And this is.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll be back next week as we get ready for the real action finally on Processing Blue as we get ready for week 1. So thank you, Alex, for coming on, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Langston. Always a good time.